Hansel and Gretel. On the borders of a dark forest far away, there once lived two children named Hansel and Gretel. They lived with their father, who was a woodcutter, and their stepmother. They were very poor, and sometimes they didn't have enough to eat. When winter came, the food was very scarce. The stepmother, who hated Hansel and Gretel, suggested to her husband, "We must get rid of the children. Tomorrow we will take them into the woods and leave them there. They will never be able to find their way home." "Oh no," said the father. "I could not leave them there to starve." "We shall all starve together if they stay with us," answered the wife. "So it will come to the same thing in the end." And she made her husband promise to do as she said. Although it was late, Hansel and Gretel were awake, and they could hear all the plans that were being made. Gretel was scared to death, but Hansel told her, "Do not cry, little sister. I will take care of you." Hansel then went outside and filled his pockets with as many little rocks he could find. He then went to sleep, prepared for the next day. Very early in the morning, the stepmother woke the children. "You shall go with me to the forest today while your father works," she said, and off they went deep into the forest. While they were walking, Hansel would drop a little rock on the road to mark the way they were taking. They were already very far away from home when the stepmother told the children, "We need to light a fire. Go and find as many sticks as you can." Right at that moment, the stepmother ran away, leaving the children all alone in the forest. But Hansel told his little sister not to worry. They would simply follow the trail of rocks he had left behind to find their way home again. The stepmother was so angry to see the children coming back home. She decided to quickly take them back into the forest. She gave a slice of bread to each of them, and off they went. But this time, Hansel didn't have enough time to collect more rocks. On their way to the forest, Hansel would drop small breadcrumbs to mark the route they were taking. They were very far away from home, and the night was falling. The stepmother managed to sneak away from the children, leaving them all alone once again. Hansel wasn't worried. He told his sister, "I'll easily find our way home as I marked the road with breadcrumbs." But Hansel quickly discovered that the birds had eaten every crumb. So the children were lost and very hungry. Hansel and Gretel wandered through the forest for hours, and they were feeling very weak. Suddenly, they found the most wonderful cottage they had ever seen. It was built entirely of gingerbread and decorated with cookies. The windows were made of transparent candy and the steps of toffee. Hansel and Gretel took a piece of gingerbread in one hand and a pane of hard candy in the other, and sat down on a toffee step to enjoy themselves. Then, as the children went on eating, the cottage door opened and an old woman hobbled out. "Dear little children," said the old woman, "do not be afraid of me. You are welcome to eat as much of my house as you'd like. But come inside and I will give you a nice dinner." The children went in and they had pancakes and apple tarts. After dinner, the old woman tucked them into 2 little white beds. The children felt as if they were in heaven. Although the old woman seemed so kind, she was actually a wicked old witch who loved to catch fat little children to eat them. Her eyes were very tired, so she didn't see well, but she could smell things as quickly as a fox, and she knew when Hansel and Gretel were wandering in the forest. She had built the gingerbread house just to catch them. Early the next morning, the old witch quickly put Hansel in a cage, and then she shook Gretel roughly by the shoulder. "Get up, you lazy little girl," she cried. "You must light the fire and fill the big pot with water and help me make breakfast. I have shut your brother up in a cage, and I am going to fatten him until he is plump enough to cook him for my supper." So poor little Gretel was obliged to do as the old witch told her. So Hansel was fed only sweets for every meal. And every day, the old witch would go to the little iron cage to say to Hansel, "Little boy, put out your finger so that I may see how fat you are growing." Hansel knew that the old witch could not see well, so he poked out a chicken's bone instead of his finger. Every day when she felt it, she grumbled fearfully because he never seemed to grow fatter. At last she could wait no longer, and she said to Gretel, "I am going to cook your brother for dinner. You must light the fire, heat the stove, and help me prepare for the feast." But Gretel thought quickly and said to the witch, "The oven doesn't seem to be working." "What nonsense!" said the witch. "Let me check." The old witch poked her head inside the oven. Quickly, Gretel ran behind and with all her might gave a sudden push. The old witch went head first into the oven. Gretel slammed the door shut and fastened it tightly. Next, she found the key of Hansel's cage and ran quickly to let him out. Hansel and Gretel threw their arms around each other and danced with joy. Then, hand in hand, they set out once more to try to find their way home. And they were very glad to leave the witch's cottage behind. After some time, they found their home. They also found their poor father, who was overjoyed when the children rushed into his arms. He had sent his mean wife away and had been looking for them for quite some time now. They were reunited again, and they all lived forever in great happiness.